to today's YouTube jazz guitar lesson. In this lesson I've got a really cool exercise to show you that's inspired by Burrell. It combines both chords and single line playing, and the interesting thing about this exercise is that we're going to be using very kind of jazz based chords, open stringy minor chords, all those kind of things. But the single lines that we're going to be concentrating on are going to be blues based, so we're going to have this kind of combination of blues lines with jazz chords, and it's a really cool sound and it's a really great way to practice both blues and jazz really. I think because you haven't got very long to play a single line, it forces you to be very rhythmically accurate, and to the point you can't kind of flunder around going up and down a minor pentatonic scale. You've got to have a very definite and concrete idea, and you've got to retain playing the vamp as well. So I think it's a really good exercise to work on your jazz guitar phrasing, or even your blues phrasing really. So without further ado, let's get down to it. Let's zoom in and let's focus on how to play this exercise. I hope you enjoy the lesson. The chord group that I'd like to show you alternates between three different chords. The first chord is an E minor 9 chord, or an E minor add 9 to be precise. And what this chord is, it's like a regular E minor chord, which I'm sure most of you already know about this point, but we're getting the root, which is on the second fret of the D string, and we're moving it up 2 frets or a whole tone to become an add 9. It's basically like a regular E minor triad, but we have the 9th as well, and we have no 7th, that's why it's not a minor 9, because a minor 9 kind of implies we have the 7th. So just an E minor with the raised root, we call that an E minor add 9. That's the first chord of this little vamp. And what we have is an inner moving line here. We have the B natural, second fret of the A string that moves up. This is the next chord, and this is a really interesting chord. This is an E minor flat 13 chord, and the C is a flat 13. So what you want to do to begin with is just get used to alternating between these two chords. Some players find this stretch a little bit problematic to begin with. Make sure that your small finger is not muting on any of the strings below, because you don't want to have any dead strings at all. You want to make sure that every string's super clear on this first chord. And when that's the case, I would then practice moving my first finger up to the flat 13. So even without any complicated picking involved, you can just get used to going. Alternating between both of the chords, the E minor add 9 and the E minor flat 13th. I like to use my second finger to get the flat 13th, but you can always raise your first finger if you prefer. So that's the first thing, is just to make sure that the movement between these two chord grips is really secure and strong. On Burrell's original recording of this tune, he actually starts by just going between these two chords to begin with. So you can, if you want, you don't like the sound of the other one, you can actually just use these two chords and not even bother learning the other one if you don't want. That's completely up to you. But anyway, I'll show you the other one. So we have an E minor add 9, E minor flat 13. Then the other one's kind of like a 6-9 chord really, E minor 6-9 chord. And that's just the 4th fret of the A string and 4th fret of the D. And I think I like to use this. I like to use my third finger to grab that note there. So I like to go first finger, second finger, then third finger for that. That C sharp is the 6 and the F sharp still the 9 chord. And those of you who have heard the James Bond theme, might start to recognise that. I mean, you typically hear that in the higher register, but this is kind of the same thing but in the lower register of the guitar. The same kind of movement that's going on, you know, the 5th going up. Whoops, sorry. That kind of thing basically, but we've got that going underneath the chord. So with these free chord movements, there's basically loads of different things you can do rhythmically to make them interesting. You can just strum them. Which is okay, that's kind of what Kenny Burrell does, but I like to kind of add some more picking really to separate the notes, give it more of a fingerstyle kind of quality, but obviously I'm using a plectrum here. And I don't really have a set pattern for doing this. I'll just basically arpeggiate on the chord, and I'll try and accent the movement to the flat 13. And amongst picking these notes, I'll basically be hitting the G and the D, and occasionally I'll go for the B and E strings as well. So I'm not really thinking about what I'm doing specifically there, but you can just basically arpeggiate up and down this movement and incorporate open strings as well. It's a really good exercise to make sure that your first finger's not falling asleep and cutting off some of these other strings, as my first finger did when I demonstrated it. So it's a good exercise for making sure that you're fingering the chord correctly. So they're basically the three chords that you need. I like to go up this raising line, then back down again, and I'll probably hit the original chord kind of in a staccato fashion, because that sets up a really nice feel for the single line soloing. Now in terms of the single line soloing, there's a bunch of things you can use here to make it sound interesting. Obviously scalic ideas based off E minor work really well. I like to incorporate this note here, the flat 5 from the blues scale, to give it more of a Kenny Burrell sound. I like to slide into this note to give it a really strong bluesy sound. I like to slide into the root, the E, and then go to the 7th, that kind of thing. And the key to really getting it sounding like Kenny Burrell is to use more slides really, rather than play typical kind of bluesy rock E minor string bendy things, is to go for more slides and smears, I find, across the scale and across the neck. One cool thing that you can do, because you're playing these chords that kind of, I guess, have somewhat of a Spanish sound or something like that to them, I like to incorporate the F natural sometimes if I'm playing open string licks, which is the flat 9, so it's kind of giving it a Phrygian kind of sound. So that's something you can do just to kind of add a bit of outside language besides just playing blues scales. So I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. I hope you have found it useful. The thing to do basically when you're practicing this is just go from alternating this groove to using kind of E minor based ideas. I think it's a really good exercise for developing your phrasing. It forces you to be very to the point, as I said before, when you're soloing. So it's something that I hope you have fun with, and I hope it gets more of that Kenny Burrell vibe into your jazz guitar playing. So if you did enjoy this lesson, please click the like button below, and I also encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, because then you get free access to all the brand new jazz and blues guitar lessons that I post. So thank you for checking out this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it, and I shall see you next time.